actually did an interview with Sauce Walker, and I asked him, who is the greatest Texas rapper ever? He said Zero. You agree with that?
Ain't nobody Scarface, DOC. Let's get it funky, let's get it funky. This is the formula.
They sold you a lie. A beautiful, purple, ice-cold, candy-flavored lie. And the rap industry, the same industry that put it in every music video, the same artists that made it look like the ultimate symbol of wealth and status and street credibility. They knew exactly what they were doing when they put that cup in your favorite rapper's hand and told you this was the player's drink. Pimp C is dead. DJ Screw is dead. Two of the most talented, most influential, most culturally significant voices that Southern rap has ever produced. Both of them gone. Both of them are taken by the same purple drink that your favorite rapper is still holding up in his Instagram stories right now like it is something to be proud of. And Lil Wayne, one of the greatest rappers to ever touch a microphone, this man had seizures. Multiple seizures. Almost died. Multiple times. Because of lean. And Charleston White, the man who says everything that everybody else is too scared to say, just sat down and blew the entire lid off of this thing. No filter. No PR team. No industry protection. The truth about lean is out. And it is ugly. Now let us go back to where this story actually starts. Because before lean was a rap culture staple. Before it was in music videos. Before it was in songs. Before it was the drink that defined an entire era of Southern hip-hop, it was a prescription medication sitting in a pharmacy somewhere in Houston, Texas. Codeine and promethazine. A cough suppressant and an antihistamine. Two drugs that when combined and consumed in the quantities that the culture eventually normalized, create an effect on the human body that is so similar to heroin that medical professionals have been saying for years that there is effectively no meaningful difference between the two.
You ain't finna bring no sad, depressed ass, lonely, I ain't got no friends, pull me ass, mad music. Shit was depressing. That's a syrup sippers for a depression. A don't serve depressed.
And Charleston White, sitting in that interview chair, speaking with the kind of raw, unfiltered authority that comes from a man who grew up in the streets, who watched this drug move through his community before it ever had a cool name and a purple color. Charleston White wants you to understand something fundamental before anything else. This is not a lifestyle choice. This is not a preference. This is not something that some people can handle and some people cannot. This is a chemically addictive substance that hijacks your brain the same way heroin does, creates the same physical dependency that heroin does, and produces the same devastating withdrawal symptoms that heroin does. The only difference, the only meaningful difference, is that somebody put it in a styrofoam cup with some Sprite and a Jolly Rancher and gave it a cooler name. And the rap industry ran with it. Because the rap industry has always been very good at taking things that destroy communities and packaging them in a way that makes those things aspirational. That makes those things something young people want to imitate. That makes those things a symbol of having made it, of being somebody, of belonging to a world that looks glamorous from the outside even when the inside is rotting. Think about what lean actually does to the human body.
Don't serve depressed, why? He ain't vibrant. Don't serve, a serve. I heard him say, players sip serve. No, they don't, dope fiend. That's heroin. Never have a player took to the dope fiend thing.
And Charleston White breaks this down with a level of biological detail that is genuinely shocking coming from a man who is not a medical professional, but who has clearly paid close attention to what he has watched this drug do to the people around him. Your kidneys, your liver, your heart, every organ in your body that exists to filter and process and keep you alive. Lean attacks all of them simultaneously. The thick syrup that makes the drink so potent is so dense that no amount of water you could realistically consume in a day is sufficient to help your kidneys process it. And that is not speculation. That is chemistry. That is the basic biological reality of what happens when you pour that substance into your body on a regular basis. And the constipation. Charleston White goes into detail about this that most people in rap media would never touch because it is not glamorous. It is not the kind of content that gets clipped and shared because it celebrates the culture. But it is the truth. Lean users, people who sip regularly, who pour up daily, who have made this drink a central part of their lifestyle, they cannot have regular bowel movements. The drug slows everything down. Slows your heart rate. Slows your breathing. Slows your digestion. And what that means in practical terms is that people who have been on lean for extended periods of time require medical intervention to address the physical backup that is built up in their bodies. Charleston White references hearing about rappers who had to go to the doctor and have things physically removed. And that image, as uncomfortable as it is exactly the kind of reality check that the culture desperately needs to hear.
Shit. The shit here got itching. Got a nigga look like a dope fiend.
Nah, Sauce was breaking. He was trying to tell the difference between lean and alcohol. He said on alcohol you'll beat your wife.
No, you won't.
You'll drunk driving. He said on lean you more chill.
No.
And then there is the sexual dysfunction. The thing that nobody in rap is going to put in a song because it completely contradicts the image that lean is supposed to represent. Lean lowers testosterone. Lean causes erectile dysfunction. Lean, the drink that is supposed to make you more relaxed, more confident, more of a player, is chemically doing the exact opposite of what the mythology around it claims. It is making the men who drink it less capable of being present partners, less capable of performing, less capable of the most basic physical expressions of masculinity that the culture places so much emphasis on. And Charleston White is angry about this. Genuinely angry. Because he sees it as a deliberate attack, a substance that has been weaponized to make black men docile, subservient, and weak at exactly the moment when strength and clarity and presence are most needed. And Pimp C knew this. One of the greatest voices in Southern rap history, a man who understood the culture at a molecular level, who helped build UGK into a legacy that will outlast everything. Pimp C spoke publicly about lean in ways that challenged the glamorization of the drug, even as it was becoming more and more embedded in the Houston rap scene that he helped create. And then in December 2007, Pimp C was found dead in a Los Angeles hotel room. The cause of death was determined to be an accidental overdose, promethazine and codeine toxicity combined with a pre-existing sleep apnea condition. The lean slowed his breathing. The sleep apnea stopped it. And one of the most irreplaceable talents that hip-hop has ever produced was gone at 33 years old. And the culture mourned. And then kept sipping. Because that is what happens when a drug has been normalized to the point where even the death of a legend is not enough to break the spell that the culture has placed around it. Because by the time Pimp C died, lean was already so deeply embedded in the identity of Southern rap that removing it would have felt like removing something essential. Something foundational. Something that defined what the music sounded like and what the lifestyle looked like and who belonged to the culture and who did not. DJ Screw had already been gone for 7 years by then. The man who literally invented the chopped and screwed style, the musical technique that slowed everything down, that made the beats drag and the vocals drawl in a way that perfectly mirrored the physical sensation of sipping lean. DJ Screw died in November 2000 from a codeine overdose at 29 years old. 29. A man who created an entirely new musical genre and influenced generations of artists and producers was dead at 29 because of the same drink that his music was synonymous with. And Houston mourned. And the culture mourned. And then kept sipping. Because here is what Charleston White understands that most people are not willing to say out loud. The culture does not just tolerate lean. The culture actively protects lean. The culture has built an entire mythology around lean that makes questioning it feel like a betrayal. Like you are not really from the streets if you do not respect the cup. Like you do not really understand the culture if you have a problem with the purple drink. And that mythology, that social protection around a chemically addictive substance that has killed multiple legends and damaged countless others, is exactly what Charleston White is here to dismantle. Because Lil Wayne is still alive. And that fact, that specific, remarkable, almost miraculous fact, needs to be examined honestly. Because Lil Wayne should not still be here by any reasonable medical assessment of what he put his body through during the years when his lean consumption was at its peak. This is a man who by his own admission was consuming so much codeine on a daily basis that his body had essentially reorganized itself around the drug. His entire system, his sleep patterns, his appetite, his mood, his cognitive function, all of it had been restructured to accommodate a substance that was slowly dismantling him from the inside. And then came the seizures. multiple seizures, documented, public, unavoidable. The kind of medical events that cannot be explained away or reframed as something less serious than what they actually were. Lil Wayne, one of the most commercially successful, most critically celebrated, most culturally influential rappers of his generation, was having seizures on private jets, being rushed to hospitals, spending time in intensive care units. And the world was watching, and the world was concerned, and for a moment it seemed like perhaps this was the event that would finally break through the mythology and force an honest conversation about what lean was actually doing to the people who consumed it. And Lil Wayne did eventually step back from lean. He has spoken in interviews about reducing his consumption, about recognizing what it was doing to his health, about the process of trying to recalibrate a body that had been operating on a chemical dependency for years. And Charleston White acknowledges this. He acknowledges that Lil Wayne, like Lil Baby, like Future, like 42 Dugg, like a number of other artists who have been publicly associated with lean, eventually reached a point where the drug's hold on them became something they could no longer ignore or manage. But here is the question that Charleston White raises that nobody has a clean answer to. If lean is so much of a player drink, if sipping and serving is such an expression of status and success and street credibility, then why do all the players eventually try to quit? Why does the list of rappers who have publicly struggled to get off lean read like a who's who of the most successful artists in the culture? Lil Wayne tried to quit. Future tried to quit. Lil Baby quit. 42 Dugg has spoken about it. And every single one of them, without exception, has described being off lean as being better, clearer, more present, more capable, more themselves. And that testimony, coming from the artists themselves, from the people who built their entire aesthetic around the cup and the styrofoam and the purple liquid, that testimony is more damning than anything a medical professional could say from the outside. Because these are not people who are anti-lean ideologically. These are not people who grew up being told the drink was bad and are just repeating what they were taught. These are men who lived inside the lean lifestyle for years and came out the other side saying, I am better without it. I function better. I think better. I create better. I am more of a man without that cup than I ever was with it. And Charleston White connects this to something broader and more politically charged that is worth taking seriously even if you disagree with the specific framing. He talks about the deliberate nature of drug culture in black communities. About the way that substances that make people docile, subservient, and mentally slowed down have historically been more available and more normalized in communities that the power structure has a vested interest in keeping passive. He talks about lean specifically, about the way that codeine syrup became disproportionately embedded in Southern black rap culture in a way that coincided with and arguably contributed to a period of extraordinary cultural influence from those communities being accompanied by extraordinary personal destruction among the artists who were doing the most to build that influence. And the slow mo drink angle is fascinating in this context. Because what Charleston White describes is essentially a harm reduction product. A drink that mimics the taste and the social ritual of lean without the codeine, without the promethazine, without the chemical dependency. And his reaction to it is complicated and honest in equal measure. On one hand, he acknowledges that for someone trying to get off lean, something that scratches the taste without delivering the drug could theoretically be useful as a transitional tool. On the other hand, he is deeply suspicious of anything that reinforces the ritual. That keeps you connected to the cup. That keeps the muscle memory of pouring up alive even when the dangerous substance has been removed. Because addiction is not just physical. It is behavioral. It is psychological. It is the smell and the taste and the social context that surrounds the substance as much as the substance itself. And this is where the Offset section of Charleston White's interview becomes surprisingly relevant. Because Offset, who has lost Takeoff, who has lost Cardi, who has lost his identity as part of Migos, who is reportedly struggling with a gambling addiction, represents a specific kind of man that Charleston White is talking about throughout this entire conversation. A man who has been through extraordinary success and extraordinary loss and has reached for substances and behaviors that provide temporary relief at the cost of long-term stability. And Charleston White's advice, however unfiltered and unconventional it sounds in the moment, is essentially about grounding, about going back to basics. About finding the kind of human connection and stability that no amount of money in a casino or lean in a cup is ever going to provide. Because the cup does not make you a player. The cup does not make you successful. The cup does not make you respected or feared or admired. The cup makes you slow. The cup makes you nod. The cup makes you agitated when you cannot get it and docile when you can. And the culture has spent 30 years telling you that this is aspirational, that this is what winning looks like, while the men who are actually living inside that image were quietly destroying their kidneys and their testosterone and their ability to be fully present in their own lives. Because here is what the culture has never been willing to fully reckon with: the relationship between lean and the music. The specific, documented, undeniable connection between the sonic aesthetic of Houston rap, the chopped and screwed style that DJ Screw invented and that defined an entire regional sound, and the physical experience of consuming lean. Because chopped and screwed music was not just inspired by lean. It was designed to be listened to while on lean. The slowed down tempos, the dragging vocals, the way everything moves at half speed, that is what the world sounds like when codeine is in your system. That is what your brain processes when the drug is doing what the drug does. So the music and the drug were not just culturally associated. They were chemically synchronized. The drug created the audience for the music, and the music reinforced the desirability of the drug in a feedback loop that was so seamlessly integrated that separating the two felt impossible. You cannot fully appreciate chopped and screwed music the way it was intended to be appreciated, according to the mythology that surrounded it in its earliest form, without being in the chemical state that the music was designed to soundtrack. And that is a profoundly disturbing thing to sit with when you understand what that chemical state was doing to the people who inhabited it. DJ Screw built a genre on lean, and lean killed DJ Screw at 29. Pimp C criticized lean culture, and lean killed Pimp C at 33. And the culture processed both of those deaths by continuing to sip because the alternative, genuinely examining what the drug was doing to the community, genuinely questioning whether the cool image was worth the biological cost, that examination was too threatening to the identity that had been built around the cup. And Charleston White also addresses the Scarface question in a way that connects to all of this. Because when he says Scarface is the greatest Texas rapper ever, without hesitation, without qualification, he is making a statement about authenticity, about what it means to build a legacy on truth rather than on image. Scarface's catalog is not a celebration of lean. It is not a celebration of docility or slow motion or chemical escape. It is the exact opposite. It is a raw, unflinching, emotionally demanding body of work that requires full presence, full clarity, full engagement. And the contrast between what Scarface built and what lean culture produced is part of what Charleston White is pointing toward when he challenges the mythology of the cup. And then there is the Memphis versus Chicago component of this conversation that adds yet another layer to the broader picture. Because Charleston White's point about Memphis, about how Memphis people are trying to survive, trying to live, trying to hustle while Chicago is just trying to kill, that distinction maps directly onto the drug culture conversation. Because the drugs that make you docile, that slow you down, that make you nod and drift and lose track of time and money, those drugs are antithetical to survival. They are antithetical to the kind of grinding, hustling, fighting to live energy that Charleston White associates with Memphis culture at its most authentic. And yet lean has penetrated every corner of Southern rap culture regardless of city, regardless of regional identity, regardless of the specific street codes and survival ethics that each community claims to operate by. Because the drug does not care about your city. It does not care about your loyalty. It does not care about your grind or your hustle or your survival instincts. It just slows you down. It just makes you docile. It just eats your kidneys and your testosterone and your presence and your ability to be the man your community needs you to be. And it does all of that while wearing the costume of something aspirational. Something cool. Something that separates the players from the squares. And Charleston White, sitting in that chair, speaking with the accumulated knowledge of a man who has watched this drug move through his community for decades, is done letting the costume go unchallenged. He is done watching young men pour up and nod out and wake up agitated and spend $400 a line on something that stopped getting them high years ago, but that their body now requires just to feel normal. He is done watching the culture protect the cup while the men holding the cup slowly deteriorate in ways that their music and their image and their social media presence carefully hide from public view. Pimp C is gone. DJ Screw is gone. And the list of rappers who are still here but who will carry the physical consequences of years of lean consumption for the rest of their lives. That list is long, and it includes some of the most beloved names in the culture. And every young man who picked up a cup because his favorite rapper made it look cool. Every young man who poured up for the first time because the music made it seem like that was what belonging looked like. He deserves to hear the truth that Charleston White is telling right now. The cup is not a symbol of success. The cup is a trap. And the people who built the trap knew exactly what they were building. And that is the complete truth that Charleston White just put on the table, and that nobody else in rap media is willing to engage with honestly. We covered DJ Screw dying at 29 from a codeine overdose. We covered Pimp C dying at 33 from lean toxicity. We covered Lil Wayne's multiple seizures and near-death experiences. We covered Future, Lil Baby, and 42 Doug all eventually trying to get off a drink they spent years calling player behavior. We covered the biological destruction, the kidneys, the liver, the heart, the testosterone, the sexual dysfunction that lean causes in the bodies of the men who consume it. And we covered Charleston White's broader argument that this is not accidental, that making black men docile and slow and chemically dependent has always served somebody's interests, and it has never served theirs. Now I need to hear from you. Do you think lean culture in rap is finally dying out, or do you think the next generation is going to pick it up the same way every generation before them did? Do you think the deaths of DJ Screw and Pimp C should have been enough to change the culture, or was the drug already too embedded by then? And do you think Charleston White is telling the truth about lean being deliberate chemical warfare, or do you think that is taking it too far? Drop everything in the comments right now, because this is the conversation that the culture needs to have, and we want your real thoughts, not the safe ones. This community goes deep, and we are not interested in surface-level takes on a topic this serious. If this video gave you something that no other channel gave you today, hit that like button immediately. Share this with somebody who still thinks lean is cool because they need to hear the truth that their favorite rapper is not going to tell them. Share it with somebody who has a young person in their life who is being influenced by rap culture, because this information could literally save a life. And if you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? We cover the stories that matter, the truths that the industry protects, the conversations that make people uncomfortable because uncomfortable conversations are the only ones worth having. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell. Do not miss a single upload. Charleston White said what he said. DJ Screw and Pimp C paid the ultimate price. And the cup is still being passed around like it is something to be proud of. Not on this channel. Not today. Not ever. Stay informed. Stay present. And put the cup down.